Well, as some of you will guess, this is Stuttgart, and this system is gradually changing to standard gauge, and you'll probably see proof of that in just a moment. These are the GT4 cars. I think they came out about 1965, the first of these. But they're still the workhorses of the system, metre gauge. A significant downgrade in the station creates even better acceleration than an unusual effect when they pass the high level platform, because that's where the people get out down there. After the tunnel we had a bit of running in narrow street. Now we're beside the road, and you can probably see that the metre gauge rail is gone rusty because it's not used anymore out through here. Now at Heslach depot, if you can think back to 1984, you might have seen this depot more or less finished, but no trams. Now it'll be full of trams, except that some of them are out running. Might be able to pick some out through the glass there. What you just saw was the maintenance area. I think we're only getting reflections there, but that's the running shed just there. This is Vaihingen. Last time I was here, I couldn't tell you exactly where the tracks went, but all has changed very considerably. It was metre gauge before with standard gauge in preparation. It used to be a complicated system of loops around some blocks in the city. That was all dug up last time, and you can see the metre gauge rail has been unbolted and lifted aside. And I think you should be able to see it. There's where 1 metre gauge track went around the block, and up to what's now my right, there was a further branch that turned off. I don't think the metre gauge cars have ever come over into this section here. Terminus for Route 1 on the right, and Route 3 we saw departing on the left a moment ago. In 1984 I visited here, and they were working on the tunnels. Gerhard, who's with me, just informs me he hasn't seen this connection before, so I'll go and see what else I've put in. You might recall seeing scenes on the previous tapes where a truck came out of this tunnel. I think there's a lot of dust blowing around. Well, this is the same spot again. Just in this particular location, there's no tunnel at all. There never will be. The line's out in the open for a short section, and this is the outer half of the tunnelling, which hadn't been commenced last time.
This hall will become a station, half in the tunnel and half in the open.
Thanks, Gerhard. This will be a temporary ramp for a couple of years for metre gauge cars only. This is at the halfway point between the two tunnels, and this connection's probably been made for a temporary connection just here, or initial connection, so they can get the overhead line car in. But this section they can just pick out the tunnel entrance down there. That section will open before the upper section, but only for metre gauge. Just walking down a bit further towards the tunnel mouth, as you can see it's being laid for dual gauge, but the metre gauge will be only used for a couple of years. Gerhard suggested we stay to the right hand side so the police cars can't see us.
Gerhard. Look, slow and fast. Slow line and fast.
This first tunnel is only, as Gerhard says, an artificial tunnel, just to make the park look right, I suppose. This is a view of much of Stuttgart, viewed from the so-called window between the two tunnels. By the city, of course, I'm in the city centre.
Tunnel. There is a emergency entrance from the tunnel on level to another valley, and this is wide enough for coming in the fire brigade or the hospital car, you know, and on the end where this small tunnel comes to the running tunnel, there is a triangle as the fire brigade could reverse.
Ah, yeah, yeah.
And on this place also is a vertical tunnel for air ventilation.
There is a certain amount of abandoned track in Stuttgart. Some routes have closed, but the more usual situation is just over here. This is fairly typical of many of the lines around Stuttgart. It's now centre of the road reservation, but this has only been done in comparatively recent years. Stuttgart Tramways decide they want reservation, they pull out trees and shift the track, and that's that. This is just coming up to the balloon loop in Botnang. Bad angle, I'm sorry. Formerly the line ran through the town. There was always congestion with road traffic, so in normal Stuttgart fashion they commandeered some market gardens and built the tram line through the middle of them and closed this track through the street. Very large balloon loop. Oh, it's going to have Smoko up there. I've seen some complicated track work in my time, but this would have to take the prize, I'm sure. While the standard gauge can come around the corner, both can go around the corner the other way. See, heading to the left here, both can go to the left, but only Metre can go straight ahead. Looking in the same direction from the other track, there's the three-way point. As you can see, it's got a very gradual lead up. Overall, the intersection is most of a grand union, but it's got to be one of the very few in the world that's dual gauge. Have a close look at some of the other directions. And in the picture there's 1, 2, 3, 4 rails there, and 2 more over there. Just walk down to this point blade here. Oops, I'm going to be run over. Comes down into that mess there. And this one's going to Vogelsang. I'm afraid Stuttgart's a fairly complicated system, so I don't know precisely where each route goes, but got some idea of the direction. Vogelsang is where we went to yesterday to film Botnang, which is further up the line. The tramways, whoops, is going. It's 12-minute headway, by the way, although it is Sunday morning, which means it's great for photography in that there's plenty of trams, but not too much road traffic to kill the noise. Quite a complicated set of tea lights for the trams. Obviously horizontal means stop. I think that's a warning of stop. Yeah. The middle one actually says T, so obviously there's special instructions. There's another T come up. Yeah, Stuttgart seems to have the money for all these marvellous little toys. Worthy of note is that none of the frogs are built up, although I must admit that in just about everywhere else that I've been, it is the standard practice to build up the flangeways so that the flanges ride through the crossings. Nevertheless, most people seem to achieve a smoother effect than Melbourne. And there's a map of it across the intersection. From that you can see it is 3/4 of a grand union, only they don't go into the details of which gauge. Eventually it all will be standard gauge. The car's got no choice as to where it's going to go because only Metre Gauge goes straight ahead. A right-hand turn for it is the only impossibility at this location, Metre Gauge wise. Of course, standard gauge wise can't go to its right. Sorry, to its left. was wrong in that last statement. It could have done a right-hand turn, just not a left. Although at present nothing seems to be going around that right-hand corner. Method of construction seems to be to basically lay the track on a concrete bed, and there is pitch poured around the rail, and eventually it's paved with blocks. A couple of little extra points. There's quite a mess of wire in the sky. Doesn't look particularly tidy, I must say. And that's what happens with pantographs. And I don't think these trams are ever going to move. Tucked away. Tucked away all around this little park, as you can see now, is a balloon loop for short workings for the metre gauge cars. All this junction was reinstalled about July, Gerhard tells me. Yeah, you can just see the turn in from there. He tells me that the cars now go around the balloon loop the opposite direction to what they used to. I hope you're not sick of this intersection. I'm about to leave it though, although I'll keep seeing new things. As Gerhard told me yesterday, the standard gauge partly goes through this intersection in this direction. They've laid that rail so far, but not any further, which means that down there and behind me will have to be changed again to add standard gauge later. You don't often see a change of section and feeders all off a side bracket arm. Mineral Beta provides some more complicated track work. Basically a left-hand junction, but up the middle is a standard gauge emergency siding. Not too sure of their new cars, and they keep one parked there all the time just in case. Interesting to model in HO, wouldn't it? Plus the fountains. Mineral Beta, by the way, means mineral baths. I'm standing behind the more distance of those fountains. It's quite a climb up here, as a matter of fact. So I seem to recall there was some interesting track work here at Mineral Beta. You might remember was a normal Y junction behind me, or for a depot connection. They've got this. But as well as that, immediately afterwards, there's an emergency balloon loop which goes around between those two hills, around the back of that one, and joins up down there near the railway bridge. And you do see the occasional train going past. By the way, it's the first time I've ever had to duck my head under a span wire. You can see this one right in the foreground. I presume it's insulated. I'm not going to test it, however. I was wondering what comes down this track. Number 14 Mühlhausen. One thing with the new cars being double-ended, you won't need loops like either of these, as a matter of fact. This one in the foreground, the depot connection, all you'll have to do is go up through the junction, change ends and come back, and a trailing crossover will take the place of the second loop. So in due course this will disappear. I'm not at the top of the fountain, by the way, because it splashes a bit. Speaking, it stopped. Must be the turn of another fountain to spray for a while. There's quite a few of them scattered all over the place here. Another one over there, and tram. As part of normal track laying, the standard gauge rails being added. You can see it on the left hand track just there, ending. In a moment we should be going up here. I guess the bit of track we're on at the moment was the last bit done. Now they're working on this bit up here. Just looking at the way it's all bolted together there, I'd say the third rail will stay there forever.
Bahnhof, Richtung Schlachthof bitte umsteigen.
Don't know who they are, but they wanted their photo taken. A little sign was warning to watch out for trams turning to the tram depot. This is actually a two-storey depot, but looking at the track, doesn't seem to get used much downstairs anyway. Well, as you might guess, the top level is most definitely not used anymore. Not even any wiring above it. I wasn't ready for that in one regard. Firstly, I didn't expect a trolley bus to be running to Essingen on Sunday, and just then it lowered the poles by itself. By the time I got the camera going, they were down on the roof. Well, he just started up the diesel engine. Meanwhile, the number 4 tram from Stuttgart's in the background. Maybe there's something wrong with the loop. We'll just keep an eye on him, as I said. Diesel's off. Well, isn't that remarkable? The double pan is just clear plastic or something of that nature, insulating material. Apparently just guides the poles up. And there's a white mark on the road that tells him where he's got to stop. And Why did the last fellow go around on diesel? Heavens knows. Well, they do run single sometimes, but it's late, isn't it? 7 o'clock at Sunday night.